Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of the Moderately Athletic Podcast. I am your host, Sam Wantuck, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tyler Noctical and Ethan Decker. Fellas, how we doing on this sort of rainy evening?
I'm good. I was planning on driving home tonight, but the rain stopped me, so I'm back in the hometown, just recording this episode quick, and, I'm excited to talk about it, but I do like rainy nights like this, especially when, turn all the lights off. You can kind of just sit there and listen to it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, I guess.
I also really enjoy it. Decker, you a fan of the rainy evenings?
I am, and rainy nights are perfect for a cold one. So, I feel like a cold one has to be cracked between all three of us tonight.
Now, this isn't a
sponsorship.
sponsorship. I got a cold one. This isn't a sponsorship, though. So
we're not sponsoring, but if Bud Light is listening,
please
hit us up.
Well, because I was going to say we're not going to name the beer we're having. Like, we just sponsor the idea of beer.
Yeah. Insert brand here.
Yes. Your brand could be on the Moderately Athletic Podcast. Just give us free beer.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
You don't even have to pay us.
No. We'll pay you to give us beer.
We'll be like Zimmer at Jackson State, doing it for free.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I guess we're already paying to have the beers we're having, so
it
would be the same. Yeah. Okay. So that's not going to work. Anyways, I think a good way to start this is that, guys, we had our fantasy draft this past week, and I think it'd be a fun thing to do is that if we share where we picked from and what our first overall pick was, and how we feel about that first overall pick. Do we think it's going to be a success or a bust?
Well, I think you should start because you had the most fireworks here in the first round.
That's true. I did come out a swinging. I believe that it is best not to play it safe. It is best to go with who you think will be the number one player. And now, what most of you are probably thinking right now is that, he picked CMC first overall. No. I had the first overall pick. But I picked my prediction for Offensive Player of the Year. And that is my man, Jay Jettis, baby. He's going to be number one overall receiver. He's got the man who made Cooper Kupp, and he's going to make Cooper Kupp 2.0, and it's going to be great. I genuinely believe that. Decker, who'd you pick?
So I went from the 9th spot, and with my first selection, I took Najee Harris. I did have Dalvin Cook staring me in the eyes, and as a Viking fan, I obviously love him. It was a tough decision. I contemplated it for a little bit, but overall, I went with Najee based on availability. Anybody that knows Dalvin and his injury history, he's never played a full season. He's usually due for about 3 games missed a year, so all came down to availability for me, and Najee was my man for that pick.
But that's why you just get the Madison Insurance pick, man.
Yeah.
Man, you're a fake fan. Fake fan alert. Tyler, who'd you pick?
I had the 5th overall pick, and I was really hoping that Christian McCaffrey fell to me at 5, and I kind of would work through the draft in my mind okay, Sam's either going Justin Jefferson or Jonathan Taylor, and then I kind of the top 3 picks. I'm like, Eckler's got to go 3rd because this guy in our league always picks Eckler. He loves him. And then at the 3rd pick, he picks CMC. So I guess he's stepping it up a notch, and that kind of took all of us by surprise, actually. But no, I'm very happy with Austin Eckler. Finished as RB2 last year. I'm a little worried about touchdown regression, but I mean, if you get a running back like him in what could be the best offense in the league, you just got to be excited about that, and I am. So, yeah, I'm happy with my Austin Eckler pick.
Yeah, that's definitely a solid pick. He's got the receiving upside.
Yeah.
But Jefferson has the best receiving upside. So, with that being said, speaking of Justin Jefferson, we are going to be sharing our current conference predictions for the NFC, what we think their record's going to be, and then we're going to share our playoff seedings. And similar to how we did last week's things for the AFC, we're going to have one person talk more in depth about each team, but share our 3 record predictions. And we're going to go by conference. We're going to do North, then we're going to go East, then we're going to do South, and then we're going to send it off with the West. So, Tyler, do you want to get us started with your beloved Green Bay Packers?
Oh boy, would I love to. So we were actually surprisingly all in the same ballpark here. I have them going 12-5. Decker, you have them going 12-5, and Sam, you got them going 11-6, which is right at their over/under line. So I was actually kind of surprised y'all had them either at or above the line. And I mean, going into the season, there's certainly some questions that make me as a Packer fan pretty nervous, such as who's going to be catching the ball from Aaron Rodgers. And, touched on him last episode and episode before that. Dubs, he's had a fantastic preseason. Christian Watson just came off the PUP list. And, we had a couple guys come off the PUP list, like Tunyon and Jenkins. And now Bakhtiari's looking like he's going to practice here soon. But we don't know if he's going to be ready by week 1, so that's a little nerve-wracking because we play you guys week 1. But I actually have that as a loss. I don't think the Packers are going to go into the bank and win that one. So, but with that said, I think a lot like this Packers team. I feel they're a lot like the 2020 Buccaneers, where they're going to kind of start off slow, and they might get to the halfway point and be 50-50 on the season, but once they start kind of clicking and the receivers start running the routes correctly and have this rapport with Rodgers, I think that it's only up from there. And we actually have a really soft schedule this year, to be honest with you. And I think majority of our games can easily be won by our defense. We play some really bad QBs, and I think just limiting, we know the offense is going to be bad or below average what it's been. So I think the games that the defense can win us is above 50%. We could win 8 games with a worse offense, I think. And just because we have Aaron Rodgers, that's just, a cherry on top to giving us a few more wins. And we have O-line's looked a little rough without Jenkins and Bakhtiari, but with them coming back, it's going to be pretty good, and we usually have good development. So, I'm excited. I really want to see this defense play lights out. I want Rodgers to have a top 5 defense, know what it's like, and So, I have them winning the North. I don't think the Vikings. Well, you can talk about the Vikings, but I got the Packers at 12-5. I'm very excited. As a Packers fan, I think this is the most excited I've been past couple of years now. So.
Yeah, no, it's definitely should still be a very strong team, cause receivers aside. But just with Rodgers, the defense alone should be very good. Yeah. Decker, do you want to take us into our beloved team, the Minnesota Vikings?
Yes, I would love to. Want to talk. So Tyler had the Vikings going 9-8, which is about realistically where they could very well be. I had him at 11-6. Wantalk had him at 12-5. So you guys see me and Wantalk. Obviously, the dude changed, the culture changed. Kwesi coming in at GM, KOC coming in at head coach. So me and Wantalk are on the positive side. Tyler's about right where the line would be for a first-year head coach and a new team around that. But for me, with picking record-wise, it all came down to thinking about last year and thinking about how many times last year we gave up pretty much, I think it was an NFL record, most points in the final 2 minutes of the first half, or halves in general, where our defense just completely melted down at the end of halves, and we were giving up touchdowns and field goals and giving us bigger deficits at the end of halves. A lot of that was because of Mike Zimmer and not adapting to the new NFL, where young offensive-minded head coaches like Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, those type of guys, just run circles around him because Zim was coaching like he was in the 90s. And that's just not how the NFL works nowadays. But, and overall, at the end of games, too, Zimmer was just so bad at clock management where he was calling, I remember I think back to that Dallas game last year where Cooper Rush beat us on Halloween night. And Zim was trying to call a timeout, and he already used all of his timeouts, and it ended up being a penalty. So Zim was very, very bad with clock management. I think KOC coming in there now is really a breath of fresh air. Not much has changed with the team. You still got, we re-signed Kirk. A lot of mixed emotions about that. I'm definitely was mixed about that, but I can understand with KOC wanting to work with Kirk and see if he can get another level out of him that Zim just flat out couldn't. You got Delvin in there, who's arguably a top 5 back in this league when healthy and at the top of his game. You got Jefferson, who's a top 5 receiver. Adam Thielen, reliable veteran, who's a red zone touchdown machine. KJ Osborne really carved in a role last year in year 2 as the wide receiver 3, and then getting Irv Smith Jr. back at tight end this year can be huge, because I know Kirk loves to go to the tight ends as well. And then just defensively, adding Zadarius Smith and a healthy Danielle Hunter, standing those guys up on the edge in a new defense in a 3-4 this year for us, I think can pay really big dividends, especially if both of those guys stay healthy. That's been the major thing with those guys, is Danielle the past 2 years has not been able to stay healthy, and Zadarius last year for Green Bay was out all year until he came back in the playoffs. But I just think with KOC coming in there, bringing in a new mindset, new coaching staff, and really being able to kind of get the guys rallying, I think that with most of the teams still there from last year, and obviously last year could have been more wins had it been different circumstances, I just think that the games we probably would have lost last year, I think we'd come out on top this year. So, I think maybe 9-10 wins could be realistic, but I'm just kind of going 11-6.
I love the optimism there, Decker, because there was so many close games that, obviously coaching definitely played a hand in us losing those close games. So hopefully these new guys can just coach better than what we had. Speaking of optimism, I'm going to touch on the Detroit Lions. So Tyler has them going 6-11. Decker has them going 7-10, and then I have them at what might be like a team high all time, 10-7. Now I know what you're thinking, Sam. You are high, 10-7. These are the Detroit Lions. All right. Well, let me tell you why I think the Lions will go 10-7. Tyler kind of touched on this briefly with the Packers. The Packers have a really easy schedule, and that just goes for the entire North. Our schedules are all pretty easy, and when you're looking at this roster, on paper, they have a really good group of guys. You have Jared Goff. Goff is going to be going into his second year in this system. We've seen in the past he can play well when you put a good team around him, and I think that the Lions have done a pretty good job of doing that. They got Swift, who's a great running back. They got a really solid receiving core, especially when Jameson Williams comes back. He's going to have a variety of weapons to throw to, and they have a great O-line. It's full of really solid players with quite possibly the best center in the league and a really good second-year right tackle. And now this is where it could all really go wrong, is in their defense. It's definitely not a bunch of well-known names going out there, but they were a group that actually played pretty well last year in a lot of games that they lost. The Ravens, who are a top franchise, beat them off like a 70-yard field goal. It's like they can play some really good teams at a high level, and so I think if the offense is moving better and the defense can be close to what it was with an easier schedule, it's definitely their ceiling, but I think that 10-7 is very possible.
Well,
yeah, I think.
Well, I just gotta say, you say they got a good group of guys, and then you just talk about their offense. Defense, especially like in the North, I feel like it's what wins you games. And real quick, I wanted to add this on the Vikings, but the reason why I'm so low on the Vikings and the reason why I'm, don't have 10 wins for the Lions is because the Vikings didn't necessarily add a whole lot on defense, which was their problem last year. Their offense is what really succeeded. Their defense what was getting cooked, and it's like they bring in Zadarius Smith. Okay, he's a phenomenal pass rusher when he's healthy. Danielle Hunter, phenomenal pass rusher when he's healthy. And then you switch to a defense that puts more stress on the cornerbacks, and you have Patrick Peterson, who is how old? Like 31?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's like your secondary is still a little suspect. Your front seven definitely got a boost, but it's like that's what was killing you last year. And like, no offense, Sam, it's kind of you're not like you. Oh yeah, you have an offensive head coach now, but you were good on offense last year. You were bad on defense, and so hopefully the two rookies you guys drafted, Booth and Scene, can step up and play well. But so that is why I'm a little low, and the reason why I have the Packers so high with the doubts they have, and the Vikings so low with the kind of like praise that they have been getting, is because Packers are a team that I feel like win the games they should. And last year we saw Vikings definitely weren't the team to win the games they should. Like, they couldn't even beat Cooper Rush. So, maybe a coaching change helps this for them, and love to see it. Well, actually, I wouldn't love to see it as a Packers fan, but maybe you guys prove me wrong. But going back to the Lions, their defense is full of holes. It's not a good defense. They got a really poor secondary. Jeff Okudah's been a bust. It's like they spend all these high draft picks on this defense. Hopefully Aiden Hutchinson pans out, but it's like there's just too many holes on defense for them to like. I even think 6 wins is a little what's the word I'm looking for? 6 wins. Generous. Thank you. Yeah. Brain fart. It might be even a little generous for them just because their defense is pretty stinky. It's pretty bad. But, I love watching them on Hard Knocks. They're an in-division team that I really, really want to see win. Like, I really like what they have going on, but I just can't get behind a 10-7 season, Sam. Sorry.
Well, not all of us are on the Man Campbell train quite yet, but we'll get you on there, Tyler.
At least
I swear we will.
I definitely like the culture he's building, though. I mean, the culture he's building is definitely one that is built to succeed. I think year 3, though, of Campbell will definitely be the year to hit, especially if Hutch really pans out. And like you said, Tyler, I love watching them on Hard Knocks. I was telling you the other day, I love their coaching staff. I really do. A bunch of former players who have been there in the big-time games and know how to win. And especially, not even just Hutch, but that middle linebacker, Malcolm Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I think that kid, if that kid can really pan out, seeing him in camp and just in the preseason games, he can
he's
really
been playing really well. So.
But yeah, that's
we may not. Sam, I'll take the segue for you because we might not all agree on the Packers and the Vikings and the Lions predictions, but we can agree on one thing, and that's the Bears are gonna suck. They are gonna stink this year. I mean, we have them going. I have them going 2-5. Decker with a generous 3-14. Did I say 2-5? I meant 2-15. 3-14, and then Wontok with a low 1-16. And you know what?
I hate 'em.
You know what? They could win 5 or 6 games like the Lions could, but it's like, man, talk about a crappy team. They have no one good on that team anymore besides Roquan, really. It's like, it's just, as a Bears fan, I have a friend who's a Bears fan, and it's just misery for him right now. And now they're shopping their second-round pick from last year, Tevin Jenkins, and it's like, he's had injury problems. They got a rookie quarterback, and that's when you have to go all in on that rookie quarterback. That's when you make playoff pushes, when you have a guy on a cheap contract. Yet they're trying to trade away all the talent they have and start a rebuild when they got a quarterback going into his second year, and Fields looks talented. He's looks like he's hung up to dry. And I don't know about Eberflus as a head coach. Defensive head coach doesn't really make any sense to me, seeing how they drafted a quarterback last year. But they're in the same boat as the Vikings. They gotta kind of switch cultures, build a different culture, and see what sticks. So yeah, I Quick thoughts on the Bears, guys.
I think you touched
yeah.
it up pretty good.
Yeah, no, I would say, yeah, he did a good job because, like you said, there were really good players. Roquan Smith. Plus, when I made this prediction, because he was gonna get traded apparently
Right.
back when I made this prediction, but now it sounds like he's gonna play through his thing. So maybe I'll give them a generous 2-15 instead of a 1-16 now that he's back. But yeah, it's gonna be a bad year overall. But I think a team that we can all agree that's going to have a good year in the NFC East, for the most part, would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Tyler has them going 11-6. Decker has them going at 9-8, and I have them going 15-2. They'd be my number one seed, and it's like this is a team that has a very, very full roster in a lot of ways. It's really going to come down to how well Jalen Hurts plays. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't like Jalen Hurts. I personally think he could be really good. So that's just going to be based on your opinion, but I think that he's a very solid QB, should take another leap forward. He's got great weapons since they added A.J. Brown. They have a solid O-line, a great tight end, and I'm unlike the defense of the Lions, which has some holes. This is a team that should be really solid on defense. I mean, their front four guys, now that they added Jordan Davis, who is just an absolute monster, should be huge with, Cox, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat. Oh, I'm thinking of Montez Sweat. I was like, crap, when did he get traded there? Okay, my bad. But still, that's a very solid front four, and they've got a great. It's a good group of linebackers. They got Hassan Reddick, who came in. He was good last year. He was good back in Carolina as well. And they drafted Nakobe Dean, who should start. And their secondary, since they added James Bradbury, is also very solid as well. This is a really complete roster when you think about all the teams around the league. And so again, while I'm probably hitting their ceiling, it's hard to imagine a team going much better than 15-2. So I'm definitely predicting their ceiling for sure. I think it's more than possible for this roster to be top of the league. I mean, especially if coaching with Nick Sirianni takes another step forward.
Sure. Yeah, obviously 15-2 is a little bit over exceeding, but Tyler could hit it right on the nail with 11-6. But the thing for me is, I just think the major question is, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is that guy yet.
Yeah. Real quick, I think that's what's going to determine what you think their record's going to be, is how much trust you put in Hurts.
Yep. So this is fully, now that they have fully embraced, Jalen Hurts, they can go bring in A.J. Brown. But the big question, they got solid O-line too. Jason Kelsey obviously is dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, but I just got to see it before I can fully confidently say that they could be double-digit wins or an NFC East winner over Dallas. I really want to know if Hurts is that guy, and if Sirianni is like that coach. Like, obviously last year he comes in first year, weak division, extra playoff team. They sneak in as the 7th seed, I believe, but then get whooped by Tampa in the playoffs. So before I can really, give them an 11-6 or obviously not a 15-2, but I really want to see what they're made of, because their defense, there's no doubt that defense will be good with everything they've added, but I just want to see if Hurts can really take on that next level to elite.
Yeah, I don't think either of you touched on it, but they added, Sam, you might have, but they added A.J. Brown, and
Yeah, no, I said that, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So, and
No, it's okay, it's okay.
It's A.J. Brown made Ryan Tannehill look good, and it's the thing is with A.J. Brown is he makes so much happen after the catch. So if it's just Hurts' job just to get him the ball in space there's no doubt in my mind that he can do that because that's what he did in college with all his playmakers, and it's like, you just have to wonder, can they repeat? I think the big thing is going to be their rushing game again. Can they repeat back-to-back years with being the number one rushing offense in the league? And, I'm not a big Miles Sanders guy. They're mainly because of fantasy. But it's like they got a whole corral of running backs back there who can certainly get the job done. You might see Hurts just be the leading rusher on this team. And because, like, the running backs are going to be going through a carousel. And it's like, if they do that, obviously they won't need to pass the ball a whole lot. Keep the pressure down on Hurts, not having to make a lot of plays through the air. But I think there's going to be enough for the coaching staff to design for him that are going to be gimmies to A.J. Brown. And let's not forget they got Devontae Smith on the other side, who is a very capable run after the catch or wide receiver too, and just a really good route runner. So I think this offense has what it takes to, win more than 11 games. Not quite 15, but it also kind of fringes on how good Hurts can execute that. So, and that could be their downfall, going 9-8. But in this weak division, I can't see him going anything less than 9-8, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I think we are seeing the three extremes of how we feel about Hurts, and so that's clearly going to be our biggest deciding factor. But when looking at a team like the Cowboys, it seems like maybe it's because it could be everything but that with Dak. Tyler, would you like to touch on the Cowboys more?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I got them going 10-7, and then this surprising. You guys, Dak, you have them going 12-5, and Sam, you got them going 13-4. Mm-hmm. So my reasoning behind this is, it's like they lost some offensive line pieces, but from what I've been seeing, their rookie Tyler Smith has been playing pretty good in the preseason, so that he's gonna fill a big hole there. But Zeke's getting up there. Tony Pollard's a good playmaker. I'm a little worried about this offense, which I think is kind of getting a little overlooked just because outside of CD, there's not a whole lot of playmakers. And maybe, Dalton Schultz, who's the tight end, but it's like they're going to want to pass the ball a lot with Dak. And it's with Amari Rodgers gone, it might be, then again, he did miss quite a few games last year. I guess I'm just not as high on the Cowboys offense this year as some might be. And I think their defense is going to take a major step down because I don't think Diggs is going to get nearly as many picks as he did last year. That really, he got how many picks? 11, right?
Yeah, 11.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's 11 times where the Cowboys probably took the ball and scored because, they were the highest scoring offense in the league last year, right? So they're, that's just right there, that's going to regress. And with the regression of their defensive turnovers along with the regression of their offense, which is most likely going to happen, I don't see them topping, getting up to 12 or 13 wins even. I'm just not a big Mike McCarthy guy either as a Packers fan, so I don't know. I just don't got a lot of faith in him. I love Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator. Hopefully he gets another shot as a head coach, but yeah, I think Diggs is. I think he's gonna, obviously not get as many picks this year, and that's gonna lead to less turnovers and less points for that offense. So.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying about that. But I think that maybe even a part of the reason why the defense did so well with getting turnovers was not just luck or player skill, but also just coaching scheme. So it's certainly yes, there's going to be a regression because it's really hard to get 11 receptions two years in a row, but I don't think it's going to regress as much as maybe you think it will. Decker, do you have anything to add to that?
Well,
yeah,
sorry to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off, Decker. But it's what else does Diggs offer? That's all he offered. He allowed it wasn't it was up there. It was top 5 most amount of yards when targeted. Like, he literally has nothing else to offer besides those 11 turnovers. So when you have a cornerback getting torched on one side of the ball and not producing the amount of interceptions as he did the year before, that's definitely going to be exploited. Scheme or not.
Okay,
Scheme or not, though. That's the thing. Like, you talked about the scheme, and I don't think that's going to matter when you have Diggs giving up, I think it was like, might have been the most, maybe. Like,
He got burned a lot.
He got burned a lot, So maybe he doesn't...
No, but you're presenting this... Okay, but you're presenting this argument, as if, like, he's going to go from 11 to 0. Because I still think he's going to get a lot of interceptions. Not 11, more like the league average, or maybe like 5 or 6. So like, I don't know. I still think he's going to be a factor. I think a factor in that department. But because I think you're posing this as if he goes from 11 to none at all, which I still think.
No, I just hate the Cowboys. Be a factor. So.
Okay, that's fair. I can say it like that. That's fine. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. You boys hit it right. I mean, reason why I got them at 12-5 is still counting the division they're in. Like, I think they probably win both against the Giants. I think they probably win both against Washington. I can see them splitting with Philly, but like you said, that receiving core, obviously CD, Pro Bowler, he's a star. Dalton Schultz, who's a very capable tight end. Tony Pollard, who's a great receiving back, also can take it on the handoffs. But Jalen Tolbert, too, the rookie, if he can pan out to be something, he could be something as well. But if there's one hot take I would have on this Dallas season, it would be, I think that this will be Mike McCarthy's last year in Dallas. I think next offseason, I think Jerry Jones goes big fish hunting and brings in Sean Payton.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a hot take, especially, they might not even make the playoffs this year, to be honest with you. I can see them losing a game to the Giants or Washington because someone's going to get hurt at MetLife or FedEx, and who knows if it's going to be Dak again. So, I think they can miss the playoffs even, and that wouldn't be shocking to me, and that would definitely cause a firing for Mike McCarthy. Mm-hmm. Interesting Sean Payton take, though.
Yeah, no, I think because that could definitely be a possibility. I think that Sean Payton will be on the job hunt next offseason. But Dick, do you want to take us into the Giants now?
Sure. Obviously not as exciting of a team to talk about, but someone's got to take the reins on them. I'll do it. So me and Tyler both have them at 6-11, and Sam with a very discouraging 3-14 for first-year head coach Brian Dable. Tyler, I'll let you take reins after my point, but I got reason why being 6-11 for me is obviously Dable coming in, a lot better of a head coach than Joe Judge, Pat Shurmur, those in the past. This was a guy that really took Josh Allen to an elite superstar level. Now, I'm not saying he will do that at all with Danny Dimes, but I think he can get more out of Daniel Jones, obviously, than the previous ones, or Joe Judge could have, to at least maybe a capable level. They definitely have, I'm not going to say, they're a very average receiving core. Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay, all very, Toney could definitely become an above-average player, but Shepard and Galladay, very average players. And then a big X factor will truly be on offense. Will be, can Saquon return to Saquon? Can this offensive line with first round pick, highly touted Evan Neal at right tackle, Andrew Thomas at left tackle, taking a step up in his second year last year, can those guys, and in the interior, can they open up more holes and more running space for Saquon? Can he really take over to the dominant force he was before? That'll be a big question, and health for him as well. Defensively, they also get first-round pick Kayvon Thibodeau, who just got hurt in the preseason. He'll be out about 3-4 weeks, but maybe he'll miss like the first week or two of the regular season. But can he pan out, and can these rookies pan out around them? And defensively, that's still very meh for them. Blake Martinez is, as Tyler would tell you from his Green Bay days, not very good in coverage. He slows down. He always seems to be one step behind. Dexter Lawrence in the interior, and Leonard Williams. Can those guys wreak havoc on the quarterback? But I think 6-11 is, I could maybe see 5-12 for first year for first year of Dable, but 6-11, I think he can kind of maybe give him 2 more wins from last year.
Yeah, that's definitely. There's a lot of what ifs, and it seems like you're taking the positive side on most. Like, will Daniel Jones play better with Dabble? Will Saquon come back to form, like his rookie season form? And I mean, I hate to be a pessimistic guy, but I just kind of see like the more negative side of both. Like Daniel Jones, I mean, I just think he flat out sucks really hard, and I don't think that you can really get much out of a guy that sucks as bad as he does. Saquon, God, I really want Saquon to be good.
Me too.
I don't know. Yeah, because you drafted him. Yeah, definitely you. Because I drafted Saquon 9th overall when he was a rookie. I gave him all my trust in the world, and he really paid me back that year. He hasn't been back to his form, so because I'd like him to be, but I just don't see that happening. That's why I'm thinking more of a 3-14. But if things go right, 6-11 is more than possible for a roster of this quality. Tyler, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, I like their front seven as like a just run stopping, I think. And, Adoree Jackson's still a decent cornerback. Xavier McKinney at safety. So, I mean, they got pieces for the defense. That old line is going to be bottom 5, I fear. Evan Neal he's been a good run blocker. He's been really sucking it up as a pass blocker. Is really just leaning over his feet when setting his blocks, and that's any experienced edge rusher knows how to exploit that. So he's got to clean that up before the season starts, definitely. But I mean, if they can control the pace through Saquon on the ground, limit the times Daniel Jones needs to throw. But I mean, a lot like Hurts, Dable should be able to scheme things up for him, and get the ball to Tony, who had like a near 70% juke rate last year or something when he was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually like electric when he had the ball in his hands. So it's. And they actually drafted Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a lot like Tooney, very, very shifty after the catch. So there's promise there, but there's just too many holes. And first-year coach, Dable, it's like I feel like 6-11 might be their ceiling that me and Decker have them at. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I'll just touch on the Commanders briefly. Tyler has them going 7-10. And then Decker and I have them going 4-13. And I wasn't certain if I was completely correct with my 4-13 prediction back when, like, kind of before the preseason started. But after watching some of their games and seeing some of, like, the clips and the highlights from those games, there's just not really much to grab from this team. I think it, similar to probably every team we've talked about here, is going to depend on the quarterback play. And Wentz was obviously okay with the Colts. He wasn't going to win any games, but he wasn't terrible. But he had the run game to rely on. So I think it's going to depend on if their committee with, Gibson, Robinson, and McKissick, can that make a JT? Probably not. That's why I'm kind of low on them with a 4-13. But yeah, is there anything quick to add to the Commanders?
No, I mean, with how bad we think Wentz was, it's still a quarterback upgrade. So, I mean, they have a pretty solid old line. Still, I mean, they just lost Scherf, so that's not good for them, obviously. But they probably have one of the best defensive lines when healthy. They got some powerhouses up there, but besides that unit, it's hard to pick out anything good. I mean, they have pretty decent wide receivers. I mean, they got McLaurin and Dotson, who's actually been looking pretty good, and Curtis Samuel. So it's not like Wentz won't have any help. So
yeah,
just not a very exciting
that's
team.
True. No, not at all. But there is a team that is quite exciting, and they're in the NFC South, and they are known as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have them all with pretty high records. Tyler has them at 12-5. Decker has them at 13-4, and so do I. And I don't know if we all like truly think that like this roster is like top tier because it is, but you just also look at the division they're in and just how totally easy it is. Because you got the Panthers and Falcons that are in full rebuild mode. Saints are definitely close, but they're like the second best team by far in this division, so they should have a very good division record. And of course, you got Tom Brady under center; he's very good. And then you got Leonard Fournette, who's really good, and they got great receivers in Mike Evans. And when Chris Godwin comes back, he'll be very good. And then they brought in Julio Jones, who if he stays healthy, it's like, God, if you were like in 2016 and you said that it was Mike Evans and Jones, you'd think like, what happened, Because that's like an insane. Of course, we're in the year 2022, but that still has a very high ceiling as a receiving core. And of course, Russell Gage is nothing to scoff at. Definitely the biggest question mark for this team is their O-line. I mean, especially with Marpet retiring, and then you have their center who went down. Was it a season-ending injury, or was it just like a temporary thing?
I think all they claimed was indefinitely. They never said season-ending.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was serious. I'll look that up. You can keep talking.
Okay. But yeah, so that's definitely the biggest question mark, and obviously Tom Brady's always played with really good O-lines, so maybe that'll really quite have an effect on him. But I feel like they'll still be able to put something together. But that's definitely gonna be the biggest thing to watch. That's their big X factor, and their defense hasn't changed a lot since the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They still have a good group of safeties with Antoine Winfield Jr. And of course, last year the cornerbacks were very questionable. The whole year, but that didn't stop them from still having a great record. So I don't think that's something that's going to be a big worry. But it's really all barring the O-line. But I mean, we're obviously all thinking pretty positive. So definitely going to win a pretty weak division this year. Tyler, did you find out what happened to our fella? I'm going to guess no. Decker, do you have anything to add about the Bucs?
Yeah, like you said, Wantalk. The biggest thing will be their O-line. Ryan Jensen is such a sturdy, solid center for Brady, who just holds it down up in the middle of the O-line. That's a huge one for them. Alex Kappa, their right guard from last year, left for Cincinnati, so that was another huge loss. Marpet retiring at I think he was 28, a young age. Definitely hurts. Wirfs has been banged up in camp right now, where he's kind of re-aggravated that injury he got last year in the playoffs. But some O-line help they did bring in was Shaq Mason, his old buddy from New England days at right guard, so maybe that helps out a little bit. Let's not discount Gronk retiring, because Gronk is such a good pass blocker, where he's basically a sixth lineman out there, where he'll give it a little chip block off the edge to someone trying to come off. And so that would be the big thing as well. Brady be running or be going down a little bit more at the age of 45 now than in previous years. But their defense still, no major changes. I mean, Ndamukong Suh leaving, that's about it. But they replace him with Akeem Hicks from Chicago, who is obviously a far more better player, in my opinion, than Suh. Not to say anything bad about Suh, but Akeem Hicks is just a movable object up front for Tampa, who like he was in Chicago, and then you pair that with Vita Vea. I don't see many teams at all being able to run up the middle, and then Shaq Barrett and Joe Tryon coming off the edge for them, and pairing up the middle with Levante David. Their defense is just still so good, and like you said, even with the cornerback play, that front seven will be causing so much havoc. Those cornerbacks, sure, if they get burned sometimes, they'll still be in a good spot. So, 13-4 for both of us, Sam, and then 12-5 for Tyler. I don't think that's too far of the question. And just like the Cowboys, if I had to say one hot take on the Bucs, which might not be such a hot take, I think this, regardless of the Bucs season this year, I think this will be Brady's last season in Tampa. I think if he decides to continue his career past this year, I think we'll be somewhere else other than Tampa, because I think maybe Tampa is just starting to kind of get a little worn out for Tom after this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with the whole Brady thing, especially with this, with the whole leave of absence he took. It seems like he's definitely a lot more family oriented. With which nothing wrong with that. You're 45, be with your family. I think the whole league wants you to do that. But yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, I think could definitely be the last year for Mr. Tom Brady, and he'll actually retire for real this time. Tyler, did you find out what the injury was for our fella under center?
Yeah, it was just a severe knee injury, I believe ACL, and they didn't give out a timetable, but it's basically every beat reporter said it was believed to be season ending. So yeah, we won't be seeing him this year, I don't think.
Okay, so that's definitely going to be something.
Which is big.
Yeah, definitely. Big. Yeah, something we got to monitor for sure. But we're still very optimistic here, obviously. Tyler, do you want to take us into the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I have the Saints at 10-7. Well, actually, we all have them at 10-7. So, we're actually pretty. Obviously, we all think the same things, and I don't know. We might think it for different reasons. I think this defense is going to be very, very solid. And a lot like the Bucs, it's just such a weak division that, whether or not Jameis is the guy at QB, this defense can win those games for them. So, I just, I think the addition of Tyrann Mathieu is really, really big for them. Last year, Mathieu, he was on that Chiefs defense, and you could tell he was kind of sick of it with other cornerback and safety play on that team, and you can kind of see him give up. I don't think you'll see him give up on this defense. I think you might see the best honey badger of his career. And, it's... this defense is really well-rounded. And going to their offense, they have a good O-line. I say good, not great. They had a great O-line last year, but obviously you got Trevor Penning at left tackle now, who we've talked about before, and it's like, I watched his preseason game, and that dude is a really good run blocker. He was probably drafted because of his run blocking, and he is really, really good at it. He's an awful pass blocker. He is really, really bad. Really bad. PFF gave him a 90 point something grade, and that was the highest rookie lineman grade of week 1. And his pass block or his run blocking was at a 96, but his pass block his pass block was at a 32, and somehow that averaged out to 90. So I don't get that, but that worries me obviously because Jameis is coming off a knee injury already, but speaking of Jameis, I really like Jameis Winston as a person. He still has to prove it to me as a player, and this offense can definitely allow him to prove that to me. They got phenomenal weapons. They drafted Olave in the first round. Michael Thomas, from what it sounds like, is that he's back to form, which is very exciting. And, you got a shifty veteran in Jarvis Landry, who's just a phenomenal possession catcher. And not much at tight end, but, you got Alvin Kamara at running back who you can just dump off the ball to and he'll go 40 yards or something. So, yeah, they got plenty to help him. A lot like the Eagles, or, there's a lot of teams, their record's just going to fringe on the quarterback play. And I think 10-7, I don't even think that's their ceiling. I think that's pretty middle for them. So, they could win more, obviously. It just depends on Jameis's play.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that as well. Yeah, it's going to be Winston. It's going to be all him. I, I mean, I think he's gonna be solid, and that's why the 10-7 is definitely a solid record for them. Decker, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, same points as Tyler. It's just, even with Sean Payton leaving, they still stay in house. They hire their defense coordinator Dennis Allen to be their new DC or their new head coach. Sorry, and just the familiarity with so many of those players, especially on defense, and then adding Honey Badger, back to Louisiana, just like Jarvis Landry. You add these guys back to where they play their college ball and their high school ball in the state of Louisiana. Now they're back home, and that's definitely an added chip to their shoulder. And then, even though you lose Marcus Williams, you add another Marcus, and you bring in Marcus May, who is still a very, very good safety. He just happened to be with the Jets for so long that it went unnoticed. So now you add him into competent defense. I think he can even take another level to his game. And then, obviously, I think this is the best wide receiver core they've had in many years, with Michael Thomas, Olave, and Jarvis Landry. And then a very good O-line. Obviously, Teron Armstead is a major loss, but still a very good O-line. And I just don't think they take much of a step back this year.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Deck, you want to take us into the Panthers now?
Yeah, yep. So, the Carolina Panthers. Me and Tyler have them at 5-12, and want to talk with a 3-14. Major thing for me here, I would say, is quarterback play and Matt Rule. So obviously Matt Rule, I think, without doubt, I think this is his last year. I just don't see them continuing past this year with him as head coach. In the last year here, supposedly, or under prediction, it would be, they go out and bring in Baker Mayfield, which wasn't really necessary when you had Sam Darnold, but they're taking all the quarterbacks basically from the 2018 class. Just throw Josh Rosen in there, and you got 3 first rounders, and Matt Corral going down with an injury wasn't major because it's not like he was going to play this year. But Baker, it's just so tough to tell because he was in Cleveland, just wasn't very, very much of a letdown and a locker room cancer per se, where he was very childish, and I don't see much changing with him in Carolina. And CMC, without a doubt, very, very good running back, can do a lot of good things regardless of the quarterback play. The X factor is, can he stay healthy? Their O-line, Taylor Moden, very good player, and then Ike Ekwonu, who they drafted in the first round out of NC State. If he can pan out, that'd be pretty good for them as well. Defensively, that's kind of their strong suit, their front seven with like Derek Brown and Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson at linebacker. They got a very good cornerback room too, with young guys and like J.C. Horn, C.J. Henderson, and Dante Jackson. If those guys can really play to their potential, that defense could be pretty good and keep them in a lot of games. But the offense and coaching just comes down to me, and 5-12 is really the best I can give them right now. There's no room for more.
Yeah, it's definitely a team that I think that's the record that could be the most wrong on my end in terms of them possibly being better than 3-14. I think it, like a lot of teams, it depends on the quarterback.
Not the 10-7 Lions.
No,
not the 10-7 Lions.
No. That is reasonable.
Okay.
It's like
yeah.
Because
I mean, I agree with you. I think 3-14 for that team is a little low, to be honest with you. Their defense showed us last year that it was capable of winning games, and I think the loss of Hassan Reddick was actually kind of big for them. So, some interior defensive guys. So I don't think that defense is going to be as potent, but like Deck hit on, that secondary is young, fast, and pretty good. Like, he didn't touch on Jeremy Chin, who's he's a solid safety too. So yeah, they definitely can win with their coverage. We just gotta hope that pass rush can get to them on defense. And I really like Ike Ekwonu. I think he's gonna be really, really good. So
yeah, and then I'll just lightly touch on the Falcons as well. We have them all at quite a low record. Tyler has them at 4-13, and the Decker and I have them both going 3-14. And it's like if you're looking at the two teams with the worst rosters this year, you're looking at the Bears and you're looking at the Falcons. Falcons just don't have a whole lot going for them. I mean, they brought in Mariota, which, I mean, obviously is a very different QB than Matt Ryan, but no matter what, he's still probably a downgrade. Cordero Patterson was obviously the biggest surprise for them by far. He played very well, but will he be able to have that same workload as he's aging? And the receiving core, obviously, Calvin Ridley's out for the season. So what you're really looking at is Drake London and Kyle Pitts as the top two targets. I mean, obviously, Pitts should be very solid, but will Drake London be that guy? That is yet to be seen, but it's definitely light on weapons, and the O-line is below average, and the defense, I mean, outside A.J. Terrell, it's kind of a dumpster fire. So I can definitely see why none of us like them too much and why we have them all with under 5 wins. Anything to add?
I think the only reason why we have them at 3 or 4 wins is because they played the Panthers twice and then the Bears once. So, not too high of hopes for them.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be great. But now in our last division with the NFC West, we have 2 or 3 really solid teams. Decker, do you want to start off with the Rams?
Yeah, I'll start off with the reigning Super Bowl champions here, the LA Rams. Tyler with a 10-7, so a bit of a Super Bowl hangover he's predicting. And then me and Wantalk at 13-4. My reasoning behind this one would be not much really lost from last year. Obviously, the big offseason news for them was would Aaron Donald return or not, with a lot of news of him possibly retiring or hanging it up, especially after a Super Bowl win. But he comes back. He's committed to the team for now. Bobby Wagner they bring in from Seattle. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, but he's still a very, very generational middle linebacker where he's dominated for many years in the old Legion of Boom there in Seattle. Then on offense too, you still got Cooper Kupp, rated Offensive Player of the Year, had one of the best wide receivers seasons you'll ever see. You get Cam Akers, who's a very solid running back, coming back from his torn Achilles that he suffered last year in training camp, and then ended up coming back to at the end of last regular season. So he had a remarkable comeback to be able to even play at the end of last year and into the playoffs. You get him back for a full season, and then sure Odell is still out there and injured and not with the team right now. He's unsigned, but you still got Van Jefferson. You got Allen Robinson, who is a good receiver, but just was in a very, very bad team with the Bears for the past 4 years here. O-line wise, Rob Havenstein at right tackle. Whitworth retiring is a big one for them because even at 40 he was still very solid for them. Big question too will be with Matt Stafford's elbow injury that they've kind of been talking about this training camp and him kind of dealing with a little ailment there. I wouldn't take that too seriously because Stafford's always had little minor tweaks here and there throughout his entire career, but he's been a tough guy to be able to hang through. But could I definitely see maybe a Super Bowl hangover for them where maybe it was like 10 or 11 wins for sure. I just think they're still just such a solid team where I just can't see him taking too far of a step back, and especially playing the Seahawks in that division, which taking a major step back obviously, and the Cardinals, who I'm not super high on, but I think 13-4 for me for the Rams is something I'm going to roll with them for this year.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely in the same boat because the biggest factor I was also taking into account was will Stafford be hindered by his elbow injury? And obviously I think the same way that it shouldn't affect him too much because he has been practicing, obviously, and it seems like, he said it's been fine, so I'll trust the guy who has the elbow injury that he feels fine, and so I think that 13-4 is definitely more than possible for a team trying to make it back and to go back-to-back in the Super Bowl. Tyler, anything to add?
Not really. Just don't like this whole line, to be honest with you. It's a little scary. They just lost their third round rookie out of Wisconsin, Logan Bruss, who was projected to start at right guard. And they lost some pieces on defense too, some edge rushers, including Von Miller and Bobby Wagner starting. He's generational talent, but he just does not have the athleticism to keep up in today's league anymore. So they got a few holes here and there that just make me a little nervous, and I think this having to play the 49ers, who I will touch on very soon, is going to be kind of their downfall.
Yeah, why don't you take us right into it, Tyler? Talk about the 49ers.
Awesome. 49ers are, like I've said already, they're a lot like the Eagles, man. It really depends on their quarterback play. They have a very solid defense, a good O-line. They're always in the top 10 for rushing attack, and that's mainly in part of not only that O-line, but also the coaching staff that they have there. And then, we saw Deebo Samuel basically turn into the first ever wide back and put up crazy numbers with that. So this offense is going to be very effective. And it's like, how middle of the road does Trey Lance have to be passing wise for him just to, be better than, or take this offensive further than my best looking person in the league, Jimmy G. And it's like, it doesn't take much. Jimmy G's, he was top 10 in efficiency for for a lot of categories. I can't name them off the top of my head, and it's like, do we think Jimmy G's a top 10 quarterback in the league?
No, not at all.
No, you guys shake your heads no. Yeah. And it's like, so if this guy who isn't a top 10 quarterback in the league putting up top 10 efficiency numbers, it's probably just a scheme thing. And it's like, Trey Lance has shown flashes of really good pocket presence and accuracy. I think if he is able to fulfill the shoes that Jimmy G did with the efficiency, passing wise, his running upside is through the roof. So I think, and Shanahan's just very good at scheming things that this might be the best rushing attack, because it's always the ones with a good rushing QB and a good head coach that can scheme it. So I think my hot take, I guess, would be that the 49ers are going to have the best rushing attack this year. And I have them going 12-5, winning the division. Dak, you have them going 10-7, and Sam at 11-6. So we all think that they're going to be really well. I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship, and I think they're going to be really good this year, and I think Trey Lance is going to be really good too.
Yeah, when you really just consider the entire added dimension that Trey Lance can add to the quarterback, being more of a rusher than Jimmy G, that's going to be huge for them. So yeah, like you said, he's got to be pretty, middle of the road. But
yeah, he's just got to be middle of the road passing, man, and that's what Jimmy G was. He just
Yeah, and so the rushing thing should definitely help. Decker, anything to add?
No, you guys hit it pretty good. I like this team a lot still, even though my record might show I absolutely love them, but I definitely like them a lot. That defense with Bosa and Armstead and Javon Kinlaw and on the D line, and Fred Warner at middle linebacker, who's so good. And I think
the best linebacker in the league.
Very, very good.
He is, yeah.
I think just my reasoning for 10-7 is I just think maybe Trey Lance's full first year here starting. I think maybe there'll be a couple games where he just has a hiccup game where it could be a little bit of inexperience showed, but he's got all the support around him. Kyle Shanahan, great offensive coach, and a solid, very solid O-line with Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey, and definitely the receivers around him, and Debo and Kittle and those boys. So I think they'll be very good as well.
Yeah. That's definitely a very good chance because they're always a team that's very solid for the whole season. And we can't really say the same thing for the Arizona Cardinals.
Good
Tyler,
segue.
thank you. I'm the master of the segues. Tyler and I have them going 7-10, and Decker with what I believe to be a generous 9-8. So, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Did we all forecast a midseason collapse for this team when making our record? Yes or no?
No, I just think that they're going to be bad all season, really.
I just had games back and forth here. I never had them getting up to a very hot stretch or very slow start and then getting hot. I just kind of had them very, win here, loss here, win here, loss there for me.
Oh crap! Well, that's what I did, cause I think them have them because I had them starting like 5-3, and then I just had them totally dying off. Plus, when you look at this roster, there's definitely a possibility of that being the case. I mean, obviously, Kyler Murray, he's a very talented guy. There has been questions of his work ethic this past offseason. Some think he'd rather be trying to get crowns on Fall Guys than study the playbook. But he's been calling plays and actually scoring more points than their coach, which is my biggest question mark with this team, is that I think that Cliff Kingsbury is an absolute bum, and he just has such a great roster to make him look better. But you look at his rest. I mean, the guy got a starting job as a head coach after going, what was it, 5-6 at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I just
with Patty.
Yeah, with Patrick Mahomes. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is now top of the food chain QB, and somehow the guy, not even just going to be a positional coach. He became the head of this team, and from a 5-6 record in college. I just don't get that, and they extended him. I think that's the worst move that they could have made. So the coaching's a big question mark for me. But they've got a solid running game in James Conner. Dude had a crap ton of touchdowns. Will obviously regress, but I still think the running game should be solid with Kyler still using his legs. I'm obviously D-Hop is going to be gone for the first 6 games, but you still have Marquise Brown, who can really stretch the field well. Maybe not catch every ball, but he'll stretch the field and make room for guys like Rondale Moore and A.J. Green and Zach Ertz to really make some work.
Could you repeat that real quick? I missed it.
Oh, I was just saying.
Cut out.
Oh yeah, I was just saying how D-Hop's suspended, but you still have Marquise Brown who can stretch the field, and then there's Rondale Moore and A.J. Green and Zach Ertz who can still make some catches. So they have solid weapons all around. The O-line, not a huge fan of it. I'm obviously Rodney Hudson's a very good center. He is aging, so maybe we'll see him fall off a little bit, but it's still a good group, especially when Kyler can move. You don't really need to have perfect blocking for a Brady type. And their defense, the defense could be pretty bad. I mean, obviously you got J.J. Watt, but the guy can only play 8 games before he dies. The front group isn't great. They lost Chandler Jones, which is going to be a big loss for them. They don't have a great group of linebackers. I mean, obviously Isaiah Simmons, he really still hasn't been a top guy like people thought he would be. Maybe that'll finally happen. We'll have to wait and see. And they've got a pretty solid secondary. That's the word. Yeah. Because they got Budda Baker and they got Byron Murphy Jr. And so those are guys that can still hold up. But you look at the front 7, it's definitely questionable. So I'm overall not very high records from us. But, I think 7-10. Decker, if I may pick your brain, why are you feeling more than 9-8 range?
I just think there'll be a couple games that they'll probably be able to squeak out based on a Kyler having a big game or, a defense or someone on defense like a Byron Murphy or a Budda Baker making a big-time play or something. But I just think 500. I mean, I gave them 9-8, but I could easily see them losing another game or two and making them. I just think 500 for them is about right, but like you said, Juan, the Kingsbury thing, is definitely a big question mark. And for those who may not know, we're not talking like a 2-year deal or a 3-year extension. This was a 6-year extension that they gave to this guy. They have the utmost faith in him, and I just completely don't get it, because I was saying last year that I think after last year they still should have gotten rid of him, but this year would have definitely been the major make it or break it.
Yeah.
But, so that just confuses me.
I don't know.
Big time.
I don't know what this front office is doing, man. Like, trading for Marquise, like yeah, he's a okay player, but I mean, they just came off this offseason not wanting to pay Kyler Murray all this money, ended up paying him all this money, and guess who's on a contract here? Marquise Brown. Now he's going to want a lot of money. And it's like there's no... It just seems very just like bang, 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 decision. It's like there's no foresight on like the future, and it's a little concerning. And you hit on it really good, Sam. Their front seven is not good. Like Isaiah Simmons, Zayvon Collins, 2 highly drafted linebackers, just not panned out so far. But yeah, I think they can get crushed in the front seven area. So yeah, I agree. I'm not high on the Cardinals, and I'm still not sold on Kyler Murray being able to play a full season. So that goes into it too. So
yeah, definitely.
I can quick touch on the Seahawks if you want.
Yeah, sounds good.
Finish her off. Okay, so I have them going 4-13, Decker at 5-12, and Sam at 2-15.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, this is the same record I have for the Bears, and I don't see the Bears having anywhere near the amount of talent Seattle does. But then again, with that said, I have them only winning 2 more games, and it comes down to quarterback play again. It's the Drew Lock or Geno Smith show in Seattle, and man, that does not sound exciting. You got all these skilled receivers, you got 2. You got DK Metcalf, a genetic freak, and then Tyler Lockett, who is, a phenomenal deep threat too. And it's like, you got like one of the better passing or wide receiver duos in the league, and you got, bottom 40 QBs throwing to them. It's like how in the world are we going to be living in an NFL year that Geno Smith is gonna start week 1? Like, how? It's shocking to me that they could not even find a replacement. Like, they didn't even try. And like Baker was there, they didn't. It's gonna be rebuilding. I'm surprised they signed DK. They extended him. Jamal Adams is putting a big dent in their pocket, and he hasn't really lived up to that trade. But I'm not a big fan of their defense. I do think that the linebacker that they're replacing Bobby with is actually better than Bobby was playing last year, obviously. So there's hope with that group. But it's like, outside of him, and they got that safety, what's his name?
Quandre Diggs.
Diggs, yeah, thank you. The actual good Diggs in coverage. It's not a lot to look forward to, and I just don't think that the Seahawks are going to be very good this year for those reasons. You guys want to touch on that just really, really quick?
Yeah, I guess I would just say that, yeah, their best spot is the receivers, but they have Drew Lock and Geno Smith. That's why I just think that this team is not going to be great. They definitely won games off the back of Russell Wilson, but he was gone for a while, and Geno Smith played pretty well, so maybe 2-15 was a little harsh, but I think it's just showing how little faith I have in this team, and they're definitely going to be rebuilding. Decker?
Yeah, tough division too.
Yeah, not much to be said, but I used to think that Pete Carroll would always be kind of like a Mike Tomlin type, where he'd always keep his teams competitive, or at least around 500, and maybe in the hunt at the end of the season. I don't think that anymore. For me, if I was Pete Carroll, I would just retire after, go through this year, and then just retire. You're up there, you're the oldest coach in the league. just save what reputation you have. Look back at your tenure in Seattle and say, hey, we had a Legion of Boom. We won a Super Bowl. We had some very good teams. But now it's just kind of time for a new change in there and just some new minds in that front office and then on that coaching staff.
Yeah.
Yep. Time for him to hang up the cleats and close that bubblegum bin, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And now to wrap up our episode, we're going to be sharing our seedings. I'll start us out here. So just two honorable mentions because they have the same record as a few of these teams. Is the Saints and the Lions. I think that they're going to narrowly miss the playoffs just off of their record in their division. But then my 7th seed is the 49ers. My 6th seed is the Packers. My 5th seed is the Cowboys. And I'm getting to my division winners. We have the Vikings at the 4th seed. The 3rd seed is the Rams. The 2nd seed is the Bucks. And the Eagles will be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Decker, who do you got?
Okay, so I got the Bucks at the 1 seed. I got the Rams at the 2 seed. I got the Packers at the 3 seed. I got Dallas at the 4. The Vikings at the 5. Saints 6. And San Francisco 7. And then, my division winners, I have Dallas at the 4. Green Bay at the 3. Rams at the 2. And then Bucks at the 1.
All right. Tyler, what do you got?
For me, I got Cowboys sneaking in at the 7. And then Saints at 6. Rams at 5. Eagles at 4, Packers at 3, 49ers at 2, and then the Bucks at 1.
All right.
Yeah, so, we have our seedings out there. What do you guys think that the Super Bowl matchup is going to be? Because, just going off, what I have for, 1 seeds, I have the Chargers against the Bucks.
Okay. Because I don't know if I would say the Eagles would win the Super Bowl. I think that they're going to be great in the regular season. But if we're looking at teams I think is going to go to the Super Bowl, I would say Bills. And I could honestly say that maybe the Rams run it back again. If Stafford is healthy, obviously. But, Bills and Rams could be possible for me, I think.
Yeah, I think for AFC, I'm definitely more confident on the Bills being able to make it and taking that jump. NFC, it's very, very coin toss for me. I could see it. All the 3 top teams. I could see Tampa being in there. I could definitely see the Rams running back. Hell, I could see the Packers in there. So, I think out of all those, maybe the likely would be, maybe the Rams being able to run it back. But definitely very much of a coin toss.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that the NFC is a lot harder to pick. But those are our predictions for the NFC. I hope that you guys enjoyed listening. And just a quick little plug here is that for the next episode, we'll have a quick Q&A section if anyone drops any questions to us. We love answering questions. Maybe you have something that's been really picking at your brain and you just got to ask someone. Ask an expert. And we're maybe the closest thing that'll answer your question. So you can ask us, and we'll answer it. You can DM us on Instagram. We're at Moderately Athletic Podcast with dots in between each word. Moderately Athletic Podcast. And then our email is askmoderately.athletic at gmail.com. That is ASK moderately.athletic at gmail.com. All right?
Sam, we may not be experts, but we are moderately knowledgeable on the sport of football. So
yes. And we'll give a moderately good answer. Thank you for listening. You have a good evening, everyone.